My boyfriend's dad made over $50,000 selling videos of me, then gave me a swimsuit for my birthday and called me the daughter he never had. When I called my boyfriend in tears, he laughed and said, "If my girlfriend's body is good enough to make money, then who am I to complain?" I hung up without another word. That was 9 months ago. Fast forward to now, they're begging me not to go through with it. When I found out my boyfriend and his dad had been selling my innocence for a quick buck, I was in junior year when me and Ryan hit the 3-year mark, and his parents had always made me feel like part of the family. His dad, Archie, was this charming, successful real estate developer who'd joke about how I was the daughter he never had. His mom, Linda, would always tell me how grateful she was that Ryan had found someone so wholesome and grounded. I was house sitting for them while they were at a conference. Ryan was away for a football trip, and they'd asked me to feed their dogs and water Linda's prized orchids. When I saw Archie had his home office unlocked, alarm bells were already going off in my head. But it wasn't until I went to clean under his mouse that I realized what was going on, because that's when a notification popped up. A payment confirmation for exclusive pool content, with a thumbnail that made my blood freeze. It was me, in their pool. My hands trembled as I clicked through. There were hundreds of videos. Me swimming, me adjusting my bikini, me showering in their pool house. All footage I didn't even know was possible. The more I clicked, the more nauseous I felt. He'd been doing this for months, making serious money, while I had no idea I was being exploited. But the worst part was the comment section, because Archie was pretending to be me and flirting with every 40-plus male about how I wanted them to take my V card. Also under my name, he promised others that I'd be getting a girlfriend to join me soon. The account had been active ever since the first day I had visited their house 2.5 years ago. Bile rose in my throat. I found folders within folders, not just pool footage, but videos from inside the house. Me changing in the guest room, the one they always insisted I use because it had the best morning light. Me bending over to pet the dogs. After doing some more digging, I found the financial records. $50,000 selling voyeur content of me. Some subscribers had been following since the beginning, watching me grow up, as they disgustingly put it in the comments. Said I would be the next Mia Khalifa. My knees buckled to the floor. After screenshotting everything, I sent it all to my boyfriend and immediately FaceTimed him. I thought he would be filled with rage, or at least upset. But no, that effer was as non-charchiet as ever. "Wait, that's actually horrible," he said, which sounds nice, but I could hear his thumbs tapping against the screen. And I knew he was playing COD Mobile while talking to me. But hey, if my girlfriend's body is hot enough to make money, then who am I to complain? He then laughed like it was a joke. I hung up and ran out of the house, but not before deleting all the footage and pouring water over his precious little laptop. But I didn't even have to block them, because neither Archie nor my BF texted me. And after 2 weeks, I got the call. It was his mom. Her voice was shaking when she said, "I'm sorry for what he did to you. They did it to me too, and blackmailed me to never go to the police. I'm so sorry." Beep. Someone on her end of the phone had hung up. Before I could ask what she meant, someone on her end hung up. The line went dead, and when I tried calling back, it went straight to voicemail. I must have called 20 times, but she never picked up again. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Linda said. They did it to me too. Did that mean Archie had videos of her, or something else? And who was they? Just Archie, or was Ryan involved too? I started putting pieces together, remembering things that seemed normal before but felt creepy now. How Archie always insisted on buying my swimsuits as birthday presents. How he'd suggest I use the pool house to change instead of the bathroom. How Ryan would sometimes cancel our pool dates last minute. The next morning, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I made a fake social media account and started searching for other girls who knew the family. Found Ryan's ex-girlfriend from middle school, some girls from his football team's parties, his cousin who visited last summer, sent a few careful messages asking if they'd ever felt uncomfortable at the house. Most didn't reply, but 2 did. Both said they always got weird vibes from Archie, but couldn't explain why. One mentioned she thought she saw a camera in the bathroom once, but figured she was paranoid. I realized this might be bigger than just me. How many other girls had been filmed without knowing? How much money had Archie made total? And what was he using it for? The house was already huge, and they drove expensive cars. Decided I needed help, so I googled women's advocacy centers near me. Found one that specialized in cybercrimes and revenge porn. Made an appointment for the next day, even though I was terrified to tell anyone else what happened. The advocate I met with was named Joyce. She was older and calm and didn't judge me at all. Explained that what Archie did was illegal in our state. Recording someone without consent in private spaces. Distributing intimate images without permission. Probably other charges too. She helped me understand my options. Could go to the police, but that meant everything becoming public. Could try to get a restraining order. Could sue in civil court. But first we needed to preserve evidence since I'd destroyed his laptop in anger. Joyce had this tech expert named Daniel who specialized in recovering deleted data. They explained that Archie probably had backups somewhere. Guys like him always do. They're too paranoid to keep everything in one place. We just had to find where. That's when I remembered something. Archie has this workshop in their garage where he fixes old computers as a hobby. Always bragging about his server setup and backup systems. If he had copies anywhere, it would be there. But I couldn't exactly walk back into their house. Not after what happened. And definitely not alone. Joyce suggested we gather more evidence first. Build a stronger case. Find other victims who might come forward. So that's what I've been doing for the past few days. Creating a timeline of when I was at their house. Going through old photos to see if I can spot cameras. Trying to remember every weird comment or suspicious moment. The worst part is acting normal at school. Ryan hasn't tried to talk to me, but I see him in the hallways. He looks at me like nothing happened. Like he didn't laugh off his dad filming me for years. Like we're just another high school couple who broke up. His friends keep asking what happened between us. I make up lies about growing apart or wanting different things. Can't exactly tell them the truth. That would destroy everything before I'm ready. Before I have enough proof to make sure Archie can't wiggle out of this. Linda hasn't tried calling again. I drove by their house once and her car was there, but the curtains were all closed. Made me wonder what was happening inside. If she was okay. If Archie knew she'd called me. Joyce says I need to be careful. powerful. Men like Archie don't like being exposed. They're used to control and power and money fixing their problems. He might try to discredit me or threaten me or worse, so I'm documenting everything and staying away from their house. But I can't stop thinking about those other girls, the ones who might not know they were filmed, the ones still going to pool parties and staying in that guest room. They deserve to know the truth. They deserve justice too. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Daniel again. We're going to try accessing the website where Archie posted the videos, see if we can find archives or cached versions. Every piece of evidence helps build the case. I'm scared but also angry. Angry that I trusted that family. Angry that Ryan doesn't care. Angry that Archie stole my privacy and sold it to strangers. But mostly I'm determined. He's not going to get away with this. Daniel showed me how to use special software to find archived versions of websites. We sat in Joyce's office with her laptop and started digging. The website Archie used had terrible security, which actually helped us. Daniel found cached pages going back 2 years. The evidence was worse than I thought. Not just me, but at least 12 other girls. Some I recognized from school. Others were probably from before I started dating Ryan. All the videos followed the same pattern. Pool footage, changing room shots, weird angles from inside the house. One account made my stomach turn. A girl named Brittany who looked maybe 14 in the videos. The comments were disgusting. Daniel took screenshots of everything while I tried not to throw up. Joyce made notes about which videos might count as child exploitation. That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Just said, "Stop digging or you'll regret it." My hands shook as I showed Joyce. She said it was probably Archie trying to scare me. We went to the police station to file a report about the threat. The officer who took my statement seemed bored at first. Another teenage drama, he probably thought. But when I showed him the screenshots, his whole attitude changed. He called in a detective named Detective Mills who specialized in cyber crimes. Detective Mills took everything seriously, made copies of all our evidence, said they'd need warrants to search the house and computers, told me to stay away from the family and document any contact, gave me his direct number in case anything else happened. I went home feeling slightly better. At least the police were involved now. But when I got to my apartment building, Ryan's car was in the visitor spot. He was leaning against it, scrolling through his phone like he owned the place. I tried to walk past, but he grabbed my arm, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop me, said we needed to talk, that I was overreacting about the whole thing, that his dad made a mistake, but family handles family business privately. I pulled away and told him to leave. He followed me to the door saying I was being dramatic, that lots of girls would love the attention, that I should be flattered older men found me attractive. Each word made me angrier, but I kept walking. My roommate Amber opened the door before I could get my keys out. She took one look at Ryan and stepped between us, told him he wasn't welcome and she'd call campus security if he didn't leave. He stared at us for a long moment, then walked back to his car. That night I couldn't sleep, kept checking the locks and looking out the window. Amber stayed up with me drinking tea and letting me vent. She said Ryan had always given her bad vibes, but she didn't want to interfere in my relationship. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from Linda's number. No voicemails, but the calls were all around 3 a.m. I showed Detective Mills and he said they'd look into it. Made me wonder if Linda was trying to warn me about something. At school, I tried to act normal, but it was impossible. Ryan was everywhere I looked, sitting with his football buddies at lunch, walking past my locker between classes, always watching me with this smirk like he knew something I didn't. Nicole found me crying in the bathroom after 3rd period. I hadn't told her anything yet because I was scared she'd be next, but she could tell something was wrong. Said Ryan had been asking about me, wanting to know my schedule and who I was hanging out with. I finally broke down and told her everything, about the videos and the money and the website. Her face went white when I mentioned Archie promised to bring her to the pool. She said she'd noticed weird stuff too, but thought she was imagining it. We went to Joyce's office together after school. Nicole wanted to help build the case. She remembered other girls who'd been to the house, made a list of names and approximate dates. The list was longer than either of us expected. Daniel had made more progress with the technical stuff, found backup servers Archie used, IP addresses that traced back to his home and office, payment records showing regular deposits to multiple bank accounts. The money trail was complex, but definitely illegal. That evening, my mom called upset. Someone had sent her an anonymous email with photos of me in a bikini. Not the explicit videos, but still creepy shots from the pool. The email said I was selling myself online, and she should control her daughter better. I had to tell my mom everything. She cried and blamed herself for not protecting me. I explained it wasn't her fault, that Archie was a predator who fooled everyone. She wanted to drive over there and confront him, but I convinced her to let the police handle it. The next day at school was worse. Some of Ryan's friends were whispering and laughing when I walked by. One made a gross comment about my swimming form that made it clear they'd seen something. I ran to the counselor's office and called Detective Mills. He said they were close to getting warrants but needed more time. Told me to stay strong and keep documenting everything. But it was hard when I felt like everyone was looking at me differently, like they all knew my secret. Nicole started getting texts too. Threats to release photos if she didn't stop helping me. She showed them to her parents who immediately called lawyers. Her dad owned a tech company and wasn't about to let some creep threaten his daughter. We found out Linda had been admitted to the hospital. Official story was exhaustion, but a nurse mentioned to Nicole's mom that it looked more like poisoning. Slow acting stuff that builds up over time. Made me remember what Linda said about being blackmailed. Detective Mills arranged for me to call Linda's hospital room. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding weak and scared. Said Archie had been drugging her tea every night, making her sleep through his computer time. She'd found out about the videos months ago. She tried to leave, but he threatened to release photos of her from their honeymoon. Explicit stuff she didn't even remember taking. Said he'd destroy her reputation and make sure she never saw Ryan again. So she stayed quiet and pretended everything was fine. But when she found out about me, she couldn't take it anymore. Started switching out her tea bags so she'd stay awake. That's how she discovered the full extent of what he was doing. Not just selling videos, but meeting up with some subscribers, letting them into the house for private tours. The call cut off suddenly. When I tried calling back, a nurse said Linda wasn't allowed phone calls. Doctor's orders, apparently. But we both knew it was really Archie controlling everything from outside. Detective Mills moved faster after that, got emergency warrants for the house and Archie's office. I wasn't there for the raid, but Nicole's dad had connections who told him what they found. Dozens of hard drives, hidden cameras in every room, financial records showing hundreds of thousands in offshore accounts. Ryan got pulled out of football practice for questioning. I heard he tried to play dumb at first, said he had no idea what his dad was doing, but they had evidence he'd helped install some cameras, text messages discussing which girls to invite over. The school buzzed with rumors. Some people said I was lying for attention. Others claimed they'd always known something was off about that family. A few girls approached me privately saying they'd had weird experiences at the house too. Kai from my chemistry class showed me photos from a pool party last year. In the background of one, you could see a tiny red light in what looked like a pool float. They'd never noticed before, but now it seemed obvious. Another hidden camera we hadn't found. The police wanted me to come in for more questions. Joyce came with me for support. They showed me evidence they'd found, including a spreadsheet where Archie tracked which girls were most profitable. My name was highlighted in gold as a premium earner. Made me sick seeing how he'd reduced us to dollar signs. Notes about our bodies and personalities, which angles worked best, which outfits got more views. He'd studied us like we were products to sell. They also found chat logs between Archie and Ryan, planning which girls to target, discussing camera placements. Ryan suggesting his girlfriend would be perfect because she was trusting and naive. That hurt more than anything else. Detective Mills said they had enough to arrest both of them, but Archie had disappeared. His car was gone and he'd withdrawn a bunch of cash. They put out alerts, but he had a head start. Ryan was still around, but lawyered up immediately. That night, someone broke into my car. Didn't take anything but left a note on the driver's seat. Last warning, written in red ink. I called the police, but there were no cameras in that part of the parking lot. Amber suggested I stay with her parents for a few days. They lived an hour away and had good security. I packed a bag and left town feeling like a coward, but Joyce said my safety was most important. While I was gone, Nicole coordinated with other victims, created a private group chat where we could share information. The number kept growing as more girls realized they'd been filmed. Some were from years ago when Ryan was still in middle school. One girl named Skylar sent screenshots of messages from Archie. He'd contacted her through a fake social media profile, offered to pay her directly for modeling at his pool. She'd turned him down but kept the messages, which now served as more evidence. We found out Ryan had been released on bail. His mom's family paid for some expensive lawyer from the city. He was back at school acting like nothing happened, told people I was a jealous ex making up stories. But then more evidence surfaced. A former friend of Ryan's came forward with recordings, conversations where Ryan bragged about the money they were making, how easy it was to trick girls into trusting them, how his dad had taught him everything. The school finally took action, suspended Ryan pending investigation, sent letters home to parents about online safety, brought in counselors to talk with students. It was too little too late, but at least they were doing something. I came back to town for a meeting with prosecutors. They were building cases for multiple charges: voyeurism, distribution of intimate images, child exploitation for the younger victims, possibly SX trafficking for the meetups Linda mentioned. They wanted me to testify when it went to trial. The thought terrified me, but I agreed. Other girls said they would too. We were stronger together than alone. Archie had counted on our silence and shame, but we weren't giving him that power. Linda was released from the hospital and went to stay with her sister. She filed for divorce and a restraining order, started working with prosecutors too, sharing financial records and passwords she'd secretly collected over the years. We learned Archie had done this before, at his previous house in another state. The family had moved suddenly 5 years ago. Now we knew why. He'd probably been running the same scheme until someone got too close to exposing him. Nicole's dad hired a cybersecurity firm to help track Archie. They found digital footprints suggesting he was heading south, maybe trying to cross into Mexico where extradition would be harder. The FBI got involved since he'd crossed state lines. Meanwhile, Ryan's lawyer tried to paint him as a victim too, said Archie had manipulated and groomed his own son, that Ryan was just following his father's lead. Some people bought it, but those of us who'd seen the messages knew better. More disturbing details emerged from the hard drives. Archie had profiles on hundreds of local girls, not just ones who'd been to the house but potential targets. Social media stalking to find out their interests and vulnerabilities. My profile made me nauseous. He'd documented my class schedule, my work hours, my favorite places to eat, notes about my family situation and financial struggles, everything he'd learned from 3 years of pretending to care about me. The other girls' profiles were just as detailed. He'd spent years building this predatory database, planning who to target next. Some girls had stars next to their names, which we realized meant he'd successfully filmed them. Joyce connected us with a therapist who specialized in exploitation victims. Group sessions where we could process the trauma together. It helped knowing I wasn't alone, that others understood the violation and betrayal I felt. The media started picking up the story. Local news first, then bigger outlets. They couldn't use our names since most of us were minors, but the details were public. Real estate developer accused of secret recording scheme made headlines. Ryan tried approaching me at school before his suspension was final, cornered me by my locker saying we needed to talk, that I was ruining his life over nothing, that I'd enjoyed the attention when I thought it was just from him. I told him to get away from me, that he was just like his father. He raised his hand like he might hit me but stopped when other students started filming. He stormed off, but the damage was done. Videos of him threatening me went viral at school. His football scholarship offers started getting withdrawn. Colleges didn't want the controversy. His friends distanced themselves. The golden boy image he'd cultivated for years crumbled in days. Part of me felt bad, but then I'd remember those chat logs. We found out Archie had been caught trying to cross the border. Fake passport and everything, but facial recognition software flagged him. They arrested him in Texas and started the extradition process back to our state. Linda revealed more about their marriage, how Archie had always been controlling, but it got worse over the years. The recordings of her were from hidden cameras he'd installed in their bedroom. He'd threatened to send them to her elderly parents. She'd tried to leave once before, packed bags and everything, but he'd tracked her her down and convinced her to come back, said he'd change, that he needed help for his addiction. She believed him because she wanted to protect Ryan. Now she was working with lawyers to freeze their assets. The money from selling videos was in various accounts, but she had access to most of them. Wanted to make sure victims could be compensated and Archie couldn't hire more expensive lawyers. The prosecutor said our case was one of the strongest they'd seen. Usually these crimes are hard to prove, but Archie had documented everything. His ego and greed created a perfect evidence trail. He thought he was too smart to get caught. More victims came forward every day, some from years ago who'd stayed quiet out of shame, others who just now realized those weird feelings at the house were justified. The total number passed 30, with more being discovered. I started speaking at school assemblies about online safety, warning other students about predators who might seem trustworthy, how to spot hidden cameras, why you should trust your instincts if something feels wrong. It was hard but necessary. Ryan posted a public apology online, claimed he was seeking therapy and wanted to make amends, but we could see he was still living in their house and driving his expensive car. The apology felt hollow when he hadn't faced real consequences yet. Detective Mills called with updates regularly. They'd found evidence of Archie selling footage to international sites too. The investigation kept expanding. Other agencies got involved. What started as a local case was becoming something much bigger. I struggled with normal teenage stuff while dealing with all this. Still had homework and tests and college applications. Had to write essays about overcoming challenges when my biggest challenge was too horrible to put in writing. My mom became super protective, wanted to know where I was every minute, checked my room for cameras even though I told her we were safe. I understood her fear, but it was suffocating. We started family therapy to work through it. The trial date got set for 6 months out. Seemed so far away, but the prosecutor said we needed time to prepare, to gather all the evidence and testimony, to make sure Archie couldn't slip through any legal loopholes. Some of the other victims dropped out, said they couldn't handle reliving it all. I understood, but it made me more determined. Those of us still fighting had to be strong for everyone, had to make sure justice actually happened. Nicole became my rock through everything. She went to every meeting and therapy session with me. Her family basically adopted me. Her dad kept saying he'd handle things his way if the legal system failed, which was weirdly comforting. We organized fundraisers for legal fees since not everyone could afford lawyers. The community rallied around us. Local businesses donated money. Parents who were horrified this happened in their town wanted to help however they could. Ryan's trial was set separately from his dad's. His lawyer was pushing for a plea deal, minimal jail time in exchange for testifying against Archie. The prosecutor wanted our input on whether to accept it. It was hard to decide. Part of me wanted him to face maximum punishment, but we needed his testimony to guarantee Archie's conviction. In the end, we agreed to the deal. Justice for all the victims mattered more than revenge against Ryan. Linda started a support group for women in abusive relationships, said she wanted something positive to come from her pain. The first meeting had 20 women, all sharing stories of control and manipulation and fear. I got accepted to my dream college early admission. They knew about my situation from news coverage but said it showed strength and resilience. Offered me a scholarship too. Finally, something good happening in my life. But Archie wasn't done trying to manipulate things from jail. He hired investigators to dig up dirt on victims, tried to find anything to discredit us. One girl got arrested for shoplifting years ago. Another had mental health struggles. He wanted to paint us as unreliable. Joyce helped us prepare for character attacks, said it was common in these cases. Predators always tried to flip the narrative, make themselves the victim. We practiced staying calm and sticking to facts during mock cross-examinations. The stress was affecting everyone differently. Some girls developed eating disorders. Others couldn't sleep. I started having panic attacks in crowded places. Therapy helped, but the trauma was real and lasting. Ryan showed up at my work one day, said he needed to apologize in person before testifying. My manager kicked him out, but not before he said something that stuck with me. That his dad had been doing this since Ryan was little, that he thought it was normal. Made me wonder how deep the dysfunction went. Had Archie recorded his own family too? Were there victims we didn't even know about? The investigation kept uncovering new layers of horror. We found out Archie had partners, other men who bought footage directly, some who participated in those private tours Linda mentioned. The prosecutor said they were building cases against them too. The network was bigger than just one family. My grades started slipping from all the stress. Teachers were understanding, but I still had to keep up. Spent nights studying between lawyer meetings and therapy sessions. Felt like I was living two different lives. The defense tried to get evidence thrown out, said the search warrants were invalid, that I'd destroyed property when I poured water on the laptop. The judge denied most of their motions, but it showed they were going to fight dirty. Some of the other victims' families started connecting. Parents who felt guilty for not protecting their daughters. They formed their own support network, shared resources and information, united in their determination for justice. I ran into Ryan's mom at the grocery store. We stood there frozen for a moment. Then she started crying and apologizing, said she'd failed me, failed all of us. I didn't know what to say, so I just walked away. The prosecutor warned us things would get harder as trial approached. Media attention would increase, defense attorneys would get more aggressive. We needed to prepare mentally and emotionally for what was coming, but we were ready. 30 girls and women united by shared trauma, but not defined by it. We'd found our voices and weren't going to be silenced. Archie had tried to steal our power, but we were taking it back. The investigation revealed one final horrible truth. Ryan hadn't just helped his dad. He'd started his own side business, catfishing girls online using my photos and others, getting them to send explicit images, then selling those too. That was the last straw for any sympathy I might have felt. He wasn't a manipulated child. He was a predator in training, following in his father's footsteps and innovating new ways to exploit girls. More charges got added to both their cases. The prosecutor said with all the evidence we had, they were looking at serious time. Archie could get 25 years. Ryan faced 5 to 10 depending on the plea deal. As the trial date approached, I felt oddly calm. We'd done everything possible to prepare. The evidence was overwhelming. The other victims were brave and ready. Justice felt actually possible for the first time. Joyce said she'd never never seen a group of survivors so organized and determined. We'd turned our pain into power, refused to be victims, fought back against a system that often failed girls like us. The night before jury selection, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about that first day I met Ryan's family. How charming Archie had seemed, how welcoming Linda was, how normal it all felt. The perfect family hiding horrible secrets. But tomorrow we'd start exposing those secrets in court, making sure everyone knew what they'd done, fighting for justice not just for us, but for future victims. Because predators like Archie only stopped when someone made them stop. The first day of jury selection was intense. I wore the outfit Joyce picked out. Professional, but not too formal. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Archie sat at the defense table in an expensive suit trying to look respectable. He kept turning around to scan the gallery. When his eyes met mine, I didn't look away, just stared back until he turned around. Some of the other girls were there too. We filled up 2 whole rows. The prosecutor was this woman named Ms. Chen who didn't mess around. She asked potential jurors about their views on privacy and consent. The defense attorney kept trying to bring up social media and how young people share everything online these days. It took 3 days to pick a jury. 7 women and 5 men, different ages and backgrounds. Ms. Chen seemed satisfied with the selection. Said they looked like people who would listen to facts, not get swayed by emotional manipulation. Ryan's plea hearing was scheduled for the next week. He'd agreed to testify against his dad in exchange for 4 years instead of 10. Some of the girls were mad about the light sentence, but Ms. Chen said his testimony was crucial. The night before opening statements, I got a call from Linda. She was staying with her sister but wanted to meet. We picked a coffee shop halfway between us. She looked older and tired, but also somehow lighter. She slid a USB drive across the table, said it had files she'd copied from Archie's personal laptop months ago, things the police hadn't found. More victims, more evidence, more proof of how long this had been going on. I asked why she didn't turn it over sooner. She said she was scared and confused and still processing her own trauma, but watching us girls fight back gave her strength. She wanted to help however she could. The files were worse than anything we'd seen. Archie had been doing this for over a decade. Different states, different houses, hundreds of victims. He kept detailed records like some sick trophy collection. Ms. Chen's opening statement was brutal. She laid out the facts without emotion. The number of victims, the years of deception, the money made from exploitation. She showed the jury photos of the hidden cameras and the websites. The defense attorney tried to paint Archie as a troubled man with an addiction, said he needed treatment, not prison, that the girls weren't physically harmed, that in the age of social media, everyone's privacy was already compromised. I wanted to scream at how he minimized everything, but Joyce had prepared us for this. Defense attorneys had to try every angle. Our job was to stay calm and tell the truth. Let the evidence speak for itself. The first witness was the detective who'd searched the house. He described finding cameras in every room, showed the jury photos of the tiny devices hidden in everyday objects, explained how sophisticated the setup was. Next came the tech expert who'd analyzed the hard drives. The sheer volume of content made some jurors look sick. Thousands of hours of footage, detailed spreadsheets tracking which videos sold best, chat logs with buyers requesting specific content. On day 3, I had to testify. My hands shook as I walked to the witness stand. The prosecutor asked me to describe my relationship with the family, how I'd trusted them, how I discovered the videos, how it felt to see myself being sold online. The cross-examination was hard. The defense attorney kept asking about my social media posts, whether I'd ever worn revealing clothes by choice, if I'd enjoyed the attention from Ryan. I kept my answers short and factual like we'd practiced. Other girls testified over the next few days. Each story was similar but unique. The violation of trust, the shock of discovery, the fear and shame and anger. Some cried on the stand. Others spoke with cold fury. Brittany's testimony was the hardest to hear. She'd been 14 in those videos, just a kid who wanted to swim in a nice pool. The prosecutor showed screenshots of the comments on her videos, and several jurors looked away. Ryan took the stand on day 7. He wore a suit that made him look younger, spoke quietly about how his dad had normalized everything, how he thought it was just another business venture, how he regretted his involvement. But Ms. Chen's cross-examination tore his act apart. She showed the jury his text messages joking about the girls, his spreadsheet tracking which of his girlfriends would be most profitable, his searches for how to hide cameras, and revenge porn laws. The defense called character witnesses, business associates who praised Archie's professionalism, neighbors who said he was friendly and helpful. They were trying to show he wasn't a monster, just a man who made mistakes. But then Linda testified. She described years of control and manipulation, finding out about the videos of her, being drugged to keep her compliant, living in fear while pretending everything was perfect. She brought receipts, literally, financial records showing Archie had spent the money on gambling and other women. The wholesome family man image crumbled as she detailed his double life. The prosecutor introduced evidence about the other men involved, the ones who'd paid for private tours of the house when young girls were swimming, the network of predators Archie had cultivated. Some were already arrested and cooperating. On day 10, Archie himself testified, tried to appear remorseful, claimed he'd started with innocent photography that spiraled out of control, that he never meant to hurt anyone, that addiction had clouded his judgment. But Ms. Chen was ready. She showed him video after video asking if each one was innocent photography, made him read his own comments on the websites, asked him to explain the drugging of his wife. He fumbled for answers. The worst part was when she asked about the money, where it went and why he needed so much. He tried to claim business expenses, but she had the receipts. Gambling debts, escort services, bribes to keep previous victims quiet. Closing arguments took a full day. Ms. Chen methodically reviewed the evidence, the planning, the execution, the cover-up. She reminded the jury this wasn't a mistake, but a calculated criminal enterprise spanning years. The defense made one last attempt to humanize Archie, talked about his difficult childhood and pressure to succeed, how society's mixed messages about sexuality had confused him. It felt desperate and hollow. The jury deliberated for 2 days. We waited in the courthouse cafeteria drinking bad coffee and supporting each other. Every time the bailiff appeared, we jumped. False alarm after false alarm until finally they had a verdict. Guilty on all counts. 27 charges including voyeurism, distribution of child exploitation material, extortion, and drugging his wife. The judge would sentence him next month, but he was facing decades in prison. Archie showed no emotion as the verdict was read, just sat there in his expensive suit like this was another business meeting. But when they led him away in handcuffs, I saw his mask slip. He looked scared. We cried and hugged in the hallway. Not sad tears, but relief. Justice had actually happened. The system had worked. Our voices had been heard. All those months of fear and preparation had led to this moment. Ryan's sentencing was the next week. He got 4 years with possibility of parole in 2. Had to register as a SX offender. Lost his football scholarship and college acceptance. His life as he'd planned it was over. He cried during his allocution, apologized to each victim by name, said he'd been in therapy and understood the harm he'd caused. Maybe it was genuine, but I didn't care. Actions had consequences, and he was finally facing his. The other men in the network started taking plea deals. Faced with the evidence from Archie's files, they couldn't deny their involvement. One by one, they admitted to buying videos or participating in the exploitation. Linda used the frozen assets to set up a fund for victims. Not just money, but therapy and legal support. She worked with Joyce's organization to create resources for other women in similar situations. The house went up for sale. Linda donated the proceeds to organizations fighting cyber exploitation, said she couldn't profit from a place where so much harm had happened. The new owners tore it down and built something new. I started speaking at conferences about digital safety, sharing my story to help other potential victims. It was hard reliving it, but worth it if even one girl avoided what we went through. Nicole and I stayed close through everything. She started studying cybersecurity in college, said she wanted to help catch predators like Archie, turn her trauma into purpose. I was proud of her strength. Some of the other girls struggled more. The trauma didn't end with a verdict. They dealt with trust issues and PTSD and relationship problems. We kept our support group going. Healing wasn't linear, but we helped each other through it. My mom eventually relaxed her overprotectiveness. We found a barchise between safety and normal life. She started volunteering with Linda's organization, channeled her guilt into helping other families recognize warning signs. I graduated high school with honors despite everything. Gave a speech about resilience and justice. Didn't mention the case specifically, but everyone knew. Got a standing ovation that felt like closure. College was a fresh start. New city where nobody knew my story. I could just be a normal student. Studied criminal justice with plans for law school. Wanted to be a prosecutor like Ms. Chen. The first anniversary of discovering the videos was hard. I spent it with some of the other girls. We had dinner and shared how far we'd come. From victims to survivors to advocates. Archie had tried to break us, but we'd broken his empire instead. Got a letter from Ryan in prison. He was teaching literacy to other inmates. Said he thought about his victims every day. Asked for forgiveness, but said he understood if I couldn't give it. I threw the letter away without responding. Archie appealed his conviction, but it was denied. The evidence was too overwhelming. He'd serve at least 20 years before possibility of parole. By then, all his victims would be adults living their own lives. More stories came out as other victims felt safe speaking up. Women from years ago who'd stayed silent. The final count was over 50 victims across 3 states. The scope of his crimes was staggering, but we'd stopped him. A group of teenage girls had brought down a predator who thought he was untouchable. Proved that money and charm couldn't protect him from consequences. Showed other victims that justice was possible. I still have bad days. Still check for cameras in new places. Still struggle with trust. But I'm not defined by what happened. I'm defined by how I fought back. How we all fought back. Linda sent me a message last week. She's engaged to someone new. Someone who respects her and treats her well. She thanked me for giving her the courage to leave. Said I saved her life. The other girls are doing amazing things. Brittany's in art school. Skylar started a nonprofit. Kai's pre-med. We took our pain and transformed it into purpose. Refused to let Archie's actions determine our futures.